Welcome back to Krishna's Law Rules. Today we'll be discussing Article 19, which talks about right to freedom. Article 19 is also known as backbone to Part 3 of our Constitution. So, as you know, Part 3 consists of fundamental rights. So, Article 19, which is right to freedom, is treated as the main part or the essential part of our fundamental rights. Article 19 protects our certain rights that are guaranteed under our constitution. Article 19, clause 1 gives us 6 rights. It is Article 19 1A, which is freedom of speech and expression. Article 19 1B, which talks about right to assemble peacefully without arms. Article 19 1C deals with right to association or freedom to form any association, unions, or cooperations. Article 19(1)(d) deals with right to move freely throughout the territory of India. In a sense, as an Indian, you can move anywhere inside the territory of India. Article 19(e) talks about right to reside or to settle in any part of the India. Article 19(1)(g) gives us right to practice any profession or any occupation. So originally, when originally Constitution came into effect, that was post our independence at 1948, when our Constitution came into effect. At that time, we had 7 rights, not 6. We had originally 7 rights under Article 19, but under 44th Amendment Act, right to acquire, hold, and dispose property, which was our 6th right at that time, was removed, and now we have 6 rights. So these rights are protected only against the state, not against any private corporation or any private individual. Which means if anyone breaches your right, in a sense, any state in a sense, any like government organization or else government of India, or anything related to government of India or government of any state, Indian state, then you can oppose it, and even you can claim relief. But if any private institute what breach your right under Article 19, then you can't claim any kind of relief. Moreover, these rights are available only to the Indian citizens and are not available to any foreigner. These rights are not even available to any legal persons. What do you mean by legal person here is any company, any legal partnership, any limited liability partnership which have been registered under law is treated as an artificial legal person. So no company or no foreign person has right under Article 19, but only and only Indian citizens have rights under Article 19. Later on, how we saw under Article 19(1), we have 6 rights. Same as Article 19(2) gives power to the state to impose reasonable restrictions on these rights. In a sense, state can restrict us from exercising those 6 rights only on these reasonable grounds. Our first right under Article 19 is freedom of speech and expression. Every citizen of India has right to express his views, opinions, beliefs, and conviction freely without any restrictions by word of mouth, writing, printing, picture, or in any other manner. So here, we, citizen of India, has right that we can express our thoughts, our opinions freely without any restrictions. But we have some restrictions which we saw in Article 19(2). So here Supreme Court said that we have freedom of speech, which also includes that we can propagate our view as well as others' views. In a sense, if I have any kind of view, I can express it or share it in front of people on a dais, on a stage, or else in any kind of social media platform. Freedom of press. Press has every right to circulate news, articles, opinions, and even as citizen, we have right to know the information, right of commercial advertisements. So these companies or we, everyone has right to advertise, that to commercial advertise. Right against tapping. What do you mean by tapping? If I'm talking to you on a like it is a telephonic conversation, and government or like agencies, government agencies tap our phone. In a sense, they can listen what we are talking. So if you know, if you saw any kind of spy kind of movie, if you saw a Razi movie, there they use code word because many of their calls can be tapped by government officials. So right against tapping, in a sense, no one can tap your phone call or like telephonic conversation. Right to telecast, as government has no monopoly on electronic media. Here what they are saying is everyone has right to telecast and government is not the monopoly. In a sense, we had in previous years we had only Doordarshan as our channel, but now we have multiple channels, we have multiple social media entertainments. So here government is no more monopoly. Monopoly, for your information, monopoly means a person or an industry, or in a sense, sorry, a particular company which rules whole market or whole industry. Um, if you say railways, in railways, government has monopoly. We citizens have right against Bandh. In a sense, if any political party calls a bandh, we have right against it. And right to know about the government activities because we are the taxpayer. We have every right to know where government is investing our money. Freedom of silence. As under Article 19(1)(a), we have freedom to speech, expression. Here, under Article 19(1)(a), we even have right to remain silent. In a sense, if I want, I can remain silent. There is no compulsion to talk or express. Right against imposition of pre-censorship of newspapers. So here, newspapers articles sometimes are pre-censored by the influential parties, political parties. So that is not allowed. Right to demonstration or picketing, but not to strike. In a sense, we can oppose someone's, sorry, governments any. We can impose governments any decision or any particular law, but we have no right to strike. Here, state will be reasonably imposing some restrictions. What are the restrictions under freedom of speech? Are here sovereignty and integrity of India. What in my integrity of India, in a sense, the positive image of India outside, the integrity, the respect of India. We shouldn't do uh, anything which affects our sovereignty or integrity of India. Security, which doesn't affect security of India. We shouldn't do that anything which affects our friendly relationship with the foreign states. We shouldn't do something which cause dispersency, in a sense, disturbance in public order. We shouldn't disturb decency and morality of our country. We shouldn't do contempt of court. What do you mean by contempt of court? Contempt of court, in a sense, you shouldn't talk bad about judge, any kind of judgment, any kind of court or court proceedings. That is known as contempt of court. Defamation. What do you mean by defamation? Here, defamation is a kind of a like criminal thing. It's offense, and even it comes under civil, sometimes civil offense. So defamation is when you talk something wrong or false about any person or any corporation. Freedom of assembly. What do you mean of freedom of assembly? In essence, assembling more than 2 to 3 people at a particular place, gathering at a place peacefully. We citizens have right to gather, but what, peacefully without any arms. I can come with my friends, we can do party, that too peacefully, not doing any kind of nuisance. And we should not be carrying any arms or any weapons. And here the point says that this gathering should only be done in public land and not in someone's private property. Private property, in a sense, you can do it in resorts, hotels, everything, but you shouldn't do it in someone else's property without his permission. So that is known as private property here. This provision does not protect violent, disorderly, riotous assemblies or the one that breach the public peace. What do you mean is the freedom of assembly doesn't apply on the person who persons not person persons who assemble with a violent motive, one who want to disturb the peace or breach the public peace, one who want to do riots. What do you mean riots? Danga or affrays, where they break things, they fire, they set ablaze on vehicles and all. Those are known as riots. State can impose reasonable restrictions on assembly, that is on two grounds. One is sovereignty and integrity of India. We saw above, integrity in a sense, positive image of India, respect of India shouldn't be affected. And other one is public order, including the maintenance of traffic. If me and my friends are assembling, hanging out together, we shouldn't make what problem or hinder. Hinder is something like అడ్డంకుగా ఉండొద్దు. We shouldn't do traffic jam. We should maintain the traffic. And we should maintain the public order as well. Continuation, here are the two sections. One is 144 and other one is 141. So 144, if you remember our corona period, you remember, right? If you and your friends used to sit at your like colonies park, police used to come run behind you with the stick. Nostalgia, right? So here 144 can be implemented by magistrate and can restrain assembly meeting or procession if there is any kind of risk. What kind of risk of any annoyance, danger to human life, health or safety, or any disturbances in public tranquility, or any riot on affray. So these are 4 to 5 points. Simply we'll understand that as one, corona period. Obviously, if there is any danger to our human health, yeah, we know, right? Corona was like it can spread easily, so they said you can't come 4 to 5 people together. Now in case of riots and affray, um government will stop meeting people because of religious riots, or say any kind of riots, or else there is kind of tension in the situation, like um, if you know, it happened in Delhi regarding farmers thing, where they all were asked not to come out. Even when Article 370 was removed in Jammu Kashmir, there was 144. They asked not to come out of their house. They were in lockdown because at that time there was tension in the environment. So under Article 141, they say that assembly of 5 or more people becomes unlawful. So assembling of 3 to 5 or more people, when it becomes unlawful, is if those people are planning to stop the execution of any law, if they're planning to forcefully occupy someone's property, if they're planning to commit any mischief or any criminal trespass. What do you mean by criminal trespass? Trespass is getting into someone's property without their permission, or to force someone to do an illegal act, or to threaten government or its officials. So this is very clear that they're forcing someone to do any illegal act, or else they are threatening government. What like in front of government offices they do, right? Petrol iskun kaliskuntaru, something like that. These kind of stuff. So these things, these assemblies unlawful. Third point is Article 19 1C, that is freedom of association. Every citizen has right to form association, union and cooperative societies. They even have right to form political parties. Here they not only have right to start an association, but they can also continue the association or unit, like doing some programs, hosting some kind of stuff and all. Further, it covers the negative right as well. So here we saw that every citizen has the right to form an association. Yes. So now coming to the negative part, what it is that they are saying some people can't get into association or can't make a union. So even it covers the negative prospect as well. Reasonable restrictions can be imposed. So what reasonable restrictions are imposed on association is that it should not affect sovereignty and integrity of India, and other thing is it should not affect public order and morality. So We have read it twice above, but still, integrity and sovereignty of India, that is, respect or like our positive image of India should not be tampered, not be affected. Other is our public order should not be disturbed. So here they are saying again, our citizen has complete right to form an association when they are following the above restrictions. If they are keeping in mind these restrictions and following the provision correctly, they have every liberty and right to to form an association. And again, that union should be for an lawful purpose and lawful objective. Otherwise, the right to obtain recognition is, and here this point carefully, um, citizens of India have fundamental right to form an association, but they don't have fundamental right to get in recognition. In a sense, recognized by government of India, NGOs do have that thing, right? So it is not their fundamental right to get it. If government of India thinks that yes, this organization is doing so much good to our society, then they can give us recognition. But every organization will not get recognition because it's not their fundamental right. Here, Supreme Court said that the trade unions don't have any right to bargain or they don't have any right to strike. So even if they want to bargain or strike, they should do it under their appropriate industrial law. So you know, right, trade unions are made mostly in the factories or where many labors are there. If you see like old movies, you'll know how trade unions used to be and how there'll be one leader, he'll be saying hamari mange puri karo, we want justice, something like that. They'll be demanding, they'll be bargaining. So that thing is not their right. And even if they want to do that, particular strike will be governed under their respective industrial law. Here, freedom of movement. So Kashmir to Kanyakumari, you can go anywhere. We have freedom of movement. Every citizen of India has right to move in any particular state or even inside their own state. Me being in Hyderabad, I can go anywhere inside Telangana. Me being in Hyderabad, I can go anywhere in India because I have right under Article 19, that is known as freedom of movement. So here he can move freely from one state to other state. The right is underlined with an idea that India is one unit and we all citizens should feel it that we all are one. There should be no differences. This particular purpose of this right is to promote national feeling and no patriotism. In a sense, there should be no differences and we all should develop this national feeling that we all are one. The grounds of imposing restrictions are, what restrictions are imposed on the right freedom of movement is one, that is interest of general public, and other one in the protection of interest of any scheduled tribe. In our India, you know, every area, every state has their own scheduled tribes, forest, a place where no one mostly visits. It is all of nature, forest, animals, and there'll be a small village. Those people are known as tribes. So this restriction is imposed to protect the culture, language, and custom manners of the scheduled tribe and to safeguard their tradition. Here, Supreme Court also said that in freedom of movement can be restricted on for the prostitutes because any kind of because a reason is public health and the interest of public morals because under this circumstance we Supreme Court held that freedom of movement often prosecute can be restricted. Even in Bombay High Court a judgment came where they said if a person have HIV AIDS, his movement or his traveling will be tracked and restricted. He will not be he'll not be freely moving because it can be spread from one person to other person because it is a contagious disease. The freedom of movement has two dimensions. What do you mean by two dimension? What is one is internal in essence inside India. Inside India, you can go anywhere under Article 19. But if you want to go outside India, that is external, then it will be governed under Article 21, that is, we have right to go outside India under Article 21. Now we'll be seeing freedom of residence. Ditto, same to same, almost like freedom of movement. Only few changes are that in freedom of movement, we'll be going on a trip for a 10-15 days with our family. But in freedom of residence, we will settle in a place, will reside in a place, will get a home or a place to reside for a temporary, say 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 6 months, or else we can even reside or settle permanently. So under Article 19, we have freedom to reside. That is almost similar to right to freedom, but here there are two aspects covered. One is right to reside in any part of India, to stay temporarily, or to settle in any part of India, that is setting up a home or a domicile permanently. The right is intended to remove the internal barriers within the country and or between any of the parts of the India, and to promote the nationalism and avoid the narrow-mindedness. Same to same. This right have been inserted to remove all the barriers inside our country and to make people feel that we all are one, and to remove the narrow-mindedness ante నువ్వు South Indian, నేను North Indian, to remove all these things and to promote nationalism, this right have been inserted. And what restriction state can impose us? Same, interest of general public and protection of scheduled tribes. Here the right of outsider to reside and settle in scheduled tribe areas restricted. Why? To protect their culture, customs, language and manners. In many part of country, what we do is scheduled tribals property will be governed only to their according to their laws, to their customary laws. We have our own customs, right? So if the tribals, their property will be dealt according to their customary laws. And here Supreme Court held that certain areas can be bined for persons like habitual offenders and prostitutes. What do you mean by like some places? Some people will be prohibited to visit places, few places. And what do you mean by habitual offender? Habitual offender means a person who has habit of committing any offense or any crime oftenly. ఈరోజు చేస్తాడు, మళ్ళీ రేపు కూడా చేస్తాడు, something like that. So from the above right, it is clear that right to residence and right to movement is overlapping. So we saw about Article 19(1)(c), that is D, that is right to movement, and whereas 19(1)(e), which is right to reside, both are similar. They have only few differences and they are a bit overlapping, but at the same time they are both complementing each other. It is complementary to each other. Now we are seeing the sixth right, that is freedom of profession. Under Article 19(1)(g), every Indian citizen has right to choose their own practice. Even say to your parents that I have right under Article 19(1)(g), that is freedom of profession, occupation, trade and business. If you want to be a businessman, you can do that. If you want to get into any profession, you can do that. If you don't want to do anything, you can just start your startup. Anything, everything is covered under Article 19(1)(g). So this particular right is very wide, and it covers all types of earnings of one's livelihood, any kind of stuff, any kind of, not illegal ones, only legal ones. So any kind of stuff which is used, any kind of work which is involved to get a livelihood will be covered under Article 19(1)(g). So state is imposing few reasonable restrictions. That is, A, if I want to be a doctor, I need to have MBBS certificate, that is my degree. And other one is COP, certificate of practice. So I should have professionalism. Technical qualification, if I want to be a mechanic, I should know how to repair the particular car, vehicle, whatever it is. So if I want to start any business occupation, I should know the professionalism. professionalism and the technical qualification. If I want to carry on any trade, business, industry, I should have certificate, license given by government. And again, if state is carrying any kind of trade or businesses, we citizen has no right to question it or to object it, because here state can even do monopoly. I said you right, monopoly is one company or one person is ruling whole market, whole industry, that is known as monopoly. Even if state is doing any kind of monopoly, you can't question them. The state is not required to answer you. State will say why I should answer. They are not required to justify. This right does not include the right to carry on any professional business or trade or occupation that is immoral. Again, I said you right, nothing illegal is covered in this. So you can't say I'm smuggling ganja, so I'm under trade and occupation. This is what? This is trade. I'm doing under Article 191G. You can't do that because it is immoral. Trafficking in human, that is women and children, and smuggling of harmful drugs and explosives, you can't do that. And if like on this all things, on this harmful things or immoral things, state can impose prohibition, that is drugs are prohibited, and it can strictly regulate it. What do you mean? Our alcohol, our tobacco is strictly regulated, that too only by a license. Even if you want to open a bar, remember, you need to go through like strict regulations, you need to take licenses. So this is a quick summary. Under Article 19, that is 19.1, we have 6 rights. Under Article 19 clause 2, 19.2, state has few power to impose reasonable restrictions. Then we saw 6 rights, that is freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom of residence, freedom of profession and occupation. Huge discount is going on, mega mock test series for TS and AP LAWCET. You can enroll now. Link is in description, or you can just ping in WhatsApp or in Instagram.